Hey, it's another episode of Joe Mullings, Untitled and Unfiltered. And we struggled around that one for a while. We couldn't figure out what to call the show, but that felt really appropriate because we couldn't figure out a title. And my team told me I should never be filtered, so hence the name. And maybe appropriate for this session, here's what I want to chat about today and share with you. We've got a big I'd call it announcement coming up in the next week or two. And it's going to revolve around careers and people's careers. And while we can use the word careers today, we can also use the word decisions in life. And I was having a conversation with this super high level executive, and we talked about people making decisions in their lives that are driven by people who don't have to live the life that you have to live. Yet for some reason, we're either guilted into it, coerced into it, or sort of subtly, selfishly guided into it. And those are usually decisions in life. So let's just stay on the career side for a second. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. So one example is as you go through life, and this is directed at sort of the 13-year-old to 17-year-old. You think about this, you go through high school and you're expected to know what to do in high school. And not only what expected to do in high school, and driven by the teachers and your parents and your aunts and your uncles and your friends and your guidance counselor. So I'm going to call out here real quick. I'm going to apologize in advance to guidance counselors. But I've always been absolutely amazed that the guidance counselor is driving these career decisions of these young people coming out of school. And if you think about the guidance counselor, whoever had a career that said they wanted to be a guidance counselor, I think a guidance counselor ended up being the booby prize for the person who couldn't teach or teach gym. So that's the person who's given me career advice and driving my selection in college, university, and my lives from there. So that's one level I want to talk about here. And so your parents are driving you, generally speaking, on the career that either they chose for you, they're currently living in a family business, or they want to go to a cocktail hour and say, oh, Bobby or Judy are going to university to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? Or whatever it is they wish you were. And they're driving you, and you have no intention of wanting to do that, but nonetheless, because your parents are paying for it, you go in for the ride and you're taking it. And you already know that it's not something that resonates with you. So that's one crowd. The next crowd is you go into university, you're 18 to 22 years old. And in that 18 to 22-year-old, how could you possibly have known what your major is? And don't get me wrong, there's probably a percentage of the population that knows what they want to do in life at 18 years old. And they end up pursuing either an engineering degree or science or art, but you know what it is that you want to do. And maybe by luck, the people around you knew that as well and blessed that for you. But now here you are, you're going to put yourself $200,000 in debt. You're going to get a major. In your first year in the major, you know that you're not digging it, but it's easier for you to go ahead and take that 4-year ride rather than stay true to yourself and opt out of that. And you don't do it because you don't want to disappoint people that are either so happy for you that you're in that major or are forcing you to be in it because they're paying for your university. So that's category 2. Categories 3 is you just graduated, you're 2 years into your career, and you realize that you made this massive mistake on going to university, but you're willing to. So do the math here. You're going to live till you're 80. You're not going to retire at 65, by the way. There's no possible way to do that anymore, and the workforce is not set up that way. So now you're 20 to, let's call it 22 years old, and you're probably going to work till you're 75 or 80. Do the math backwards. You are going to live in this cognitive dissonance that's going to lead you to lousy relationships, that's going to lead you to probably abuse of alcohol or drugs or of yourself, and you can pick your poison. And then you're going to have miserable relationships across the board because you're going to work every day on something that you're just passing time on. There's no love, there's no fulfillment, there's no magic about it. That's category 3. And then category 4. Category 4 is the person who spent 15 years in a career. And now you're deep into it. You got the sig other, you got the kids, you got the mortgage. You are now what's called hostage to the decisions that you absolutely battled through in that 13 to 15-year-old, in that 18-year-old, in that 22-year-old. Now you're at that 35-year-old, and you absolutely are not happy going to work every day, and you're pulling into that parking lot every day, and you're absolutely disgusted with what you got to do, but somebody's got to pay the mortgage, somebody's got to pay the child support, somebody's got to pay for the private school, and now you get stuck in this absolute brutal life of having to show up every day to pay for all of these things that you really are just hostage to from an economic and emotional perspective. You're so worried about what everybody else is going to say about you bailing on something and judging you, and none of those people really give a crap about you. Even your parents don't. Your parents really don't. Your friends really don't. In fact, some of your friends love that you're miserable because they want to be miserable with you. Because if you were really tied up with good, solid friends, they would tell you to punt and get the hell out of the situation that you're in. And your parents, they don't know any better. When your parents give you advice, unless your parents are on the forefront of technology today, because the jobs that are coming out of both high school and college today, 50% of those are not even going to exist in 10 years. And the jobs that are going to exist, nobody can even fathom or conceptualize right now because technology is going to change so much in the next few years. Go back to 2008, go back to 2008 when the iPhone came out. Think about all the different jobs that are in the market today or services in the market today that did not even exist before the mobile era. And this is not a straight line function anymore like this. You're getting this type of push right now. You're getting this absolute 2x, 3x acceleration curve on the way up because technology is accelerating at a rate much greater than what we've seen in the hundreds of years before us. So how in the hell can at 13 years old, you possibly, let's say you knew you wanted to be a doctor at 13, just for shits and giggles. Let's say you know, you were one of those lucky kids. Great in school, great in math, great in that stuff. Fixed animals, fixed birds, and you know you want to help people. Now, but you hate computers. Do you understand that that job is going to change dramatically because computers are going to run healthcare in the next 10 years? You're going to be interacting with a computer with natural language processing software, with a little robot with a dress on coming in, being the nurse for you, and you despise computers for whatever reason? See my point that so much is going to change over the next 5 to 10 years in technology, and the advice you're getting are from people who are techno-idiots, because generally at the level in school, look around your school, you're working on computer terminals that are still CRT tubes. Look around your school, the technology isn't super forward-facing. Look around your parking lot. None of your teachers are driving Teslas. The phone they have in their hand is probably 4 generations old. This is not to diss that, but they should not be giving you advice on the career you pick. And if you get stuck in a career that you don't like, you need to get out. Because the longer you sit in that, the more your skills are going to be less valuable in the forward-facing market. And then when you're into that 25 to 35 year age, if you're sitting in 25 to 35 right now, and you're thinking you're not sure about the gig you're in, you need to absolutely don't buy a house. You need to absolutely probably not even think about getting married and having kids. You absolutely need to put that stuff off until you get into something that you skip and hop out of bed every day to get to and go to work. Because if you get locked into the sig other and you get locked into the kids and you get locked into the house, you're going to be hostage. And then you're going to despise that situation for the next 30 years. And we all have parents and aunts and uncles that had to live like that. Now, I'm not suggesting you being selfish, but what I am suggesting is you are a much more lovable, patient, generous version of yourself when you are living a more fulfilled life. When you have to go through life in a shit show, because you listened and took advice and got jammed on your career or jammed on your university degree, you are not able to be a wonderful, beautiful, sentient being. And nobody ever gets the best version of you, so you're not being selfish. So if you're sitting in high school today and listening to this, you're sitting in as you enter college today listening to this, you're still not, it's still a crapshoot for you. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to pick a career because somebody else thought it was a good idea for you. Or you took some silly 47 question test in high school and somebody said because you tested well there that you ought to pursue a career in some sort of counseling or science or math. And you just know in your heart you have a dissonance about you of what you don't want to do. You may not know what you want to do, but I can guarantee you if you start living life because you're not sure yet, by knocking out what you don't want to do, that will get you a lot closer to making a more accurate decision that will allow you to be happier. So we started this with careers, and I needed to start somewhere on that, but it really is around choosing the life that you want to live, choosing the place that you want to work, choosing the people that you want to hang around with. You know, sidebar on this. Look around at the people you're hanging around with right now. Why are you hanging around with them? Are they making you a better version of yourself? Or are you just hanging around with them because you're too lazy to associate yourself with overperformers, because overperformers don't stay off the couch and don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning or don't seek out what makes them happy by improving who they are? Who are you hanging out with? All of these things triangulate towards each other. That was a heavy one, but it's true. And I'm not saying you tell your parents to go, pound sand, and I'm not saying that you tell your guidance counselor that they got the booby prize when it came to careers, and they're supposed to be dishing you out careers. And I'm not saying you're supposed to tell your boss to go, F himself. But what I am saying is you can think your way out of the situation that you're in right now, no matter if you're the 35 or 45-year-old or if you're the 15-year-old. But what you've got to do is you've got to look eye to eye with the people who are giving you guidance and stare at them and say, I appreciate your insight, I really do. I said, but it's not what I want to do. And if you're going to pay for my college because you want me to go here, if I can make a really evidence-based argument to you and I can show you why I want to instead become a pianist or a ballet goddess or a graffiti artist, and I can show you at least a reasonable line to success, and it's my definition of success, not your definition of success, because I might be happy as shit living in a $1,100 a month rented apartment with a 12-year-old car because I get to become a street artist, and I don't want to be miserable like you. You got to give me a shot at that. This is Joe Mullings, Untitled and Unfiltered. Have a great day.